It's all, if I can be blunt, it's all unicorns and rainbows.
I mean, we're not some magical place of unicorns and rainbows all the time. We got more than our fair share. But like the things that we've managed to do, we've had to work really, really hard at it.
Ha ha. Ha ha. How's that for an intro today? Well, that's not actually the real intro. That's ours. Teaser. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll be right back. What does that all mean? Inside the mind of Justin Trudeau. Interview with Pierre Poilievre. Not mine, but a little bit of Jordan Peterson's when we come back. And have a look at our new intro and tell me what you think. We need a political change, but we also need the resolve to resist. Yeah, well, there it should be. Tell me what you think. And want to get right into the news today. Because incredible. I'm not going to dwell too much on the U.S. We did that yesterday, and well, it was what it was. Anyway, great interview with conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and Jordan Peterson, who is one of those Canadians who's more American than he is Canadian now. But by the way, thank you for your comments on Kevin O'Leary. It's not like I'm a huge fan. I think he says some interesting things at times, but I understand most of you just can't stand him. You made that quite clear. And so I'm probably not going to make the effort to bring him on the show. I was going to do that because, like I said, I used to interview him quite a bit when he was running for the Conservative leadership quite some time ago. So I won't make that effort. We'll leave that for another time. But what I want to talk about today, and we'll get to this in a minute, is what is Justin Trudeau thinking and what is Jagmeet Singh possibly thinking? Now, Pierre Poilievre has some interesting thoughts about Jagmeet Singh and what he's thinking. And yeah, he does think. It's usually completely self-obsessive thinking, and it's usually not thinking about you or your concerns or your families. But he does have a very self-interested sense of self-preservation. That's not overload. Let's listen to what Pierre Poilievre had to say about Jagmeet.
I don't understand this at all. So do you want to walk us through this?
Well, let's first of all shed a brief tear for Jagmeet Singh, because the problem he has is that he's trying to be an NDP leader and we already have an NDP prime minister. I mean, Justin Trudeau is he's actually much more radical than the traditional NDP.
As the NDP themselves admit, the previous leaders of the NDP.
Yes, he attacked the NDP Trudeau attacked the NDP for being too conservative.
Yep.
But because he had the comfortable blanket of the Liberal Party, which governed for most of the last century, people didn't realize what kind of radical they were dealing with. Yeah. The second problem Jagmeet Singh has is that all of his political ideology is implemented now. So, and we're seeing it. Like, people look around and say, okay, this is what it looks like. The utopia the NDP has been spinning in the corner of Parliament. They told us everything was going to be free and wonderful and just, and there would be
racial equity.
There would be there would be unicorns and butterflies and rainbows, and this would be the utopia. Well, now that all of their policy agenda, all of their agenda is implemented, and people look.
So that's the third time today we've heard rainbows and unicorns, and it does exemplify Justin Trudeau's mentality. Inside Justin Trudeau is a, shall we say, 13, 14-year-old little girl. And that is what this man is all about. This is why he goes to Taylor Swift concerts and acts like he's 12 and trades friendship bracelets with teenage girls. I mean, let's face it, folks. If this was anybody else, there'd be some serious questions being asked here about a man in his 50s going to concerts and almost being inappropriate, shall we say, I'll put it that way, with teenage girls. I mean, what is he doing? What signals is he sending here? Would this be acceptable for you and I to go to a Taylor Swift concert and do this? But it's clear that there's something wrong, seriously wrong with Justin Trudeau's head. And this is why unicorns and rainbows. Yeah. If you ever see, like a 14-year-old girl's room, that's the decorating scheme. And that's what's decorating Justin Trudeau's head. And this is why he's going to get through this latest crisis, because he really believes it's not there. It's not real. The real thing to Justin Trudeau is unicorns and rainbows, pride parades, and trans kids, trans rights. That's real to Justin Trudeau. Let's listen to some more of this.
Around, and it's a hellscape. Mm-hmm. We have 1,400 homeless encampments in Ontario, 35 in Halifax. We have hate crimes are up 253% in the last 9 years. The military is decimated. Wages are dropping. Like it's the list goes on. And so Jagmeet Singh is trying to disown that ideology, even though that it belongs to him. And he's trying to unsuccessfully to convince people that he's somehow different than that, when in fact Trudeau has only been doing what Singh would have done in his place. And so it is a classic for socialists. What they try to do is change their names and move on and try to have everyone forget their past. And when I say that socialists changed their names, I mean, they first were communists, and then they became socialists, and then they became social democrats, and then they stole the word liberal, and then they ruined that word, so they changed their name to progressives, and then they changed their name to woke, and now they claim they don't want to be called woke anymore. Because socialists always try to disown the things they've done because it's manifestly disastrous, and that is what Singh is trying to do, while simultaneously keeping Trudeau's government going. He voted just a couple of weeks ago against a non-confidence motion that I put forward, which contained Singh's own criticisms of Trudeau in Singh's own words. So he voted against his own words to keep Trudeau in power.
Yeah. This is, I think, one of the best interviews I've seen with Pierre Poilievre. With the exception maybe of the Rex Murphy. There we go. Right. I think he probably had made some very salient points, and he's doing that here, and the best is yet to come. But what I want to do here is what nobody has said yet is that Jagmeet Singh, like I've told you this, the arithmetic is in Jagmeet Singh's favor now, because it's been all about Jagmeet getting his pension. And of course, there's a guy in Calgary now who says he's going to raise enough money to give Jagmeet his pension. But whether that comes to fruition or not, the arithmetic's finally there for Jagmeet Singh. If we have an election call when the House resumes, we're looking at a March election. February, a little tight. Not going to happen. March, yeah. And that's the magic date for Jagmeet Singh. It's March. I think it's March 7th, actually. Lots of time. He will be a member of parliament until he's defeated in the next election. A very good chance he could lose his seat, even in Vancouver. Because like I tell you, it's going to be a massacre with vote splitting. And it's going to be a massacre between the New Democrats and the Liberals in terms of who's going to hit bottom first. Because there's going to be massive vote splitting, and even ridings like downtown Vancouver, downtown Toronto, Edmonton Center, where Randy Boissonneau is probably going down to defeat. These are potentially going to go conservative because of the massive vote splitting on the left this time. Now, this has never really happened before to this degree. And it's going to be absolutely historic. But I tell you that because Jagmeet Singh might want an election in March as opposed to October or June. Because why? And you're saying, okay, he's always been saying, no, we're going to wait. We don't, because if we go right now, it's going to be a conservative majority, and I don't want that. So I'm going to wait until God knows what happens. The conservatives somehow drop 20 points in the polls overnight. That's what he's perhaps been imagining. I'm going to tell you this today. Now, no, I don't think anyone else has gone here yet. But what do you think of this? Jagmeet Singh is saying, okay, I know I'm not going to be prime minister. I might have a chance of being the official opposition if the bloc sort of implodes. And if I get enough seats from the Liberals, if the Liberals go into complete hibernation, if they go into extinction mode, the NDP has a hope in hell, but not much of one, of becoming the official opposition. But Jagmeet Singh might be saying, all right, better to go sooner rather than later, because if the Liberals have a chance to have a leadership contest and Justin Trudeau does resign, Justin Trudeau is replaced, that's going to hurt the NDP a lot more than it's going to hurt anybody else. So here's my prediction. Jagmeet Singh is going to be on side with this election, and I'm going to tell you in a minute why Charlie Angus, the rogue MP in the NDP caucus, might be voting with Justin Trudeau, because he wants Justin Trudeau to survive, and he wants Justin Trudeau to prorogue Parliament. Now let's have a look at this. Here's what's going to happen. We could be facing a non-confidence motion as early as January 30th. Because Conservative MP John Williamson, he chairs the Committee on Public Accounts. The Public Accounts Committee is going to be meeting on Monday, okay? 4th, 5th, 6th, yeah. It's Tuesday, actually. They're going to be meeting January 7th to consider a motion of non-confidence in the government. Now, if the motion passes, this opens the door for MPs to debate a non-confidence motion in the House as early as January 30th. Now, I've been saying for quite some time, be very simple. Keep it simple, stupid, with this non-confidence motion. Don't make it about carbon tax selection. You can talk about that as soon as the government's defeated. You can get back to the talking points as soon as the government's defeated. Make it as simple as possible so everybody can bite into it. Now, this is it. Okay, and John Williamson is saying here, public council will meet starting January 7th to address a motion of non-confidence in the government. The committee's non-confidence report will be tabled in Parliament on January 27th and could be voted on by January 30th. The government no longer commands the confidence of Parliament. Simple. Not let's have a carbon tax election. Not let's have an election on stopping regulation. Not about any specific policy. Just get rid of Justin Trudeau, please, before it's too late. That's what it's going to be about. Here it is. That the House has no confidence in the Prime Minister and the government. That's going to be the non-confidence motion. I think that is exactly what they need to do. And this is going to completely stymie people like Charlie Angus, who really don't want to vote against this. Now, here's something I didn't know. And I worked on the Hill. And I'm trying to think where I was working on the Hill the last time that actually Stephen Harper was in a minority position. And he prorogued, I think. But here's the interesting thing. I looked this up. Since 2003, prorogation has had almost no practical effect on private members' business. As a result of this significant exception to the termination of business principle. So what am I saying? Trudeau prorogues Parliament, and the governor general, actually, on the advice of the Prime Minister, prorogues Parliament. It's going to mean that bills like C-63, government bills, will die. Private members' bills won't. So that means the insane C-293 bill, which is essentially going to make meat products illegal during the next pandemic, that will survive. As will Charlie Angus's crazy bill. Let's have a look. So, government bills that would die is C-63, the Online Harms Act, which I've been fighting tooth and nail since the idiotic Attorney General introduced it as some sort of protection for women and children. Bill C-27, aimed at regulating digital platforms, that will be done. That will die too. Odious private members' bills that won't. Nathaniel Erskine Smith, he's the guy from the English Drawing Room Comedy. He's now the housing minister and big-time YouTuber. Gets about 1,000 views every time he goes on. He is the guy behind C-293, the Pandemic Prevention and Preparedness Act, which is essentially a vegan act. It's going to make eating meat or obtaining meat virtually impossible at the whim of government agencies. Now that bill won't die, and neither will Bill C-372. And you're saying, see, I don't remember that one. That one, we covered that quite extensively, actually. And Redacted actually did a segment on that, too. I think I was part of that. But that is the bill that is going to make it a criminal offense to promote fossil fuels or the oil and gas industry. Even having a bumper sticker on your car that says, I love Alberta gas, or I love Canadian oil, or whatever, that will be against the law criminally. And you could be facing huge fines. So that's what Charlie Angus is thinking. We can prorogue Parliament. My bill survives. Charlie's not running again, but he wants that to be his legacy piece of legislation. That Canada is crazy enough to make it a criminal act to promote fossil fuels. Now, that is about as stupid a bill that has ever raised its ugly head in the House of Commons. Charlie Angus can be about as stupid as an MP can be. So the two go very well together. But that's what Charlie Angus wants as his legacy. That incredibly horrible bill. So that's why. And there's lots more crazy. Elizabeth May has a private member's bill, proposes overreaching the personal freedoms and property rights. Bill C-226, recognizing November 11th as Transgender Day of Remembrance. Do you think that could pass? You bet it could. With the current makeup, yeah. There's other stuff. We got more regulation of farmers, more conversion therapy bans. This is all potentially coming and could survive proroguing. We need the non-confidence vote. I've been telling you that for weeks now, for months. We need to come back, have a non-confidence vote, and we need to get into an election immediately, not just because for the good of the country, because we need we need a viable, legitimate government to negotiate with Donald Trump, who will be president when this House of Commons comes back. Donald Trump is going to be president in 17 days, folks. 17 days. Donald Trump will be the president of the United States. And if he doesn't think the Canadian government has done enough for border security, 25% tariffs on everything, not just aluminum, not just steel. We've had that in the past. This has never happened before. So that's what's going to happen. And that's why we can't dither. We can't have a leadership race for the Liberals. We can't have prorogation of Parliament for 2 or 3 months. We need to get into an election and get down to business immediately. And that's what we need to do. Now, just a note here, story I did yesterday on the explosion of that Tesla vehicle in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Very, very bizarre. We now know that the individual was shot in the head, either by self-inflicted wound, or self-inflicted gunshot, or somebody else shot him. So it might have been a suicide attack. But he was apparently a Trump supporter. Was he blackmailed? What's going on here? The deep state does not want Donald Trump to come into the White House and get on with his agenda, to get on with making America great again. The deep state wants Donald Trump hampered with a bird flu epidemic, another phony pandemic, and they want him saddled with another war on terror. So we'll be looking under our beds for ISIS and Al-Qaeda and everybody else. And we can't get on with the business of getting America back to normal. It'll be constant emergency. Or there'll be such an emergency that we can't have Inauguration Day on January 20th. That's what we're looking at, folks. This is what all this is. We had another incident in Washington yesterday, right in front of Capitol Hill. Watch for more of this happening every day. And the Department of Homeland Security, run by that half-wit Alejandro Mayorkas, will seize every opportunity to take rights away from Americans. Excuse me. Just like Justin Trudeau in this country will seize any opportunity he can to stay in power. And this is, if we get back to those unicorns and rainbows, that's what's in the mind of Justin Trudeau. I can do whatever I want to stay as leader of the Liberal Party and as Prime Minister of Canada because I'm above it all. I'm the Sun King. I am Canada. To hell with all of those people in my caucus who want me gone. To hell with the 75% of Canadians who want me to resign. To hell with the polls. To hell with Donald Trump. To hell with everything. I know best. That's what Justin Trudeau says in his mind. And as I've told you before, and I didn't find a clip in time for today's broadcast, but I'm going to be showing it over the weekend. Justin Trudeau has said innumerable times he was in third place in 2015. He says that. I was in third place. I was behind Tom Mulcair and Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper was supposed to win that election handily. 2015. Conservatives made a lot of stupid mistakes in 2015. They had a campaign manager who didn't know how to run a campaign. She put Stephen Harper in front all the time without giving any credit to other MPs. And they really thought an ad that said he's just not ready was going to be effective. Now that was insanity. However, Justin Trudeau has said on many occasions, nobody thought I was going to win in 2015. Everybody thought Stephen Harper was going to win another term. Majority, in fact. Everybody sold me short, and I won. Now, Justin Trudeau is going to say that again, and he's going to be running again in this next election because he thinks he can do it. Now, let's listen to this, and I'll have a few comments to make. This is another great segment from this interview with Jordan Peterson and Pierre Poilievre.
Like, frankly speaking, I don't envy you your job. Or the people, by the way, in the Trump administration, because it's very glamorous at the moment for them. But if they're going to cut government inefficiency in a serious manner, they're going to be doing hard administrative labor for a very long period of time. Now, you're going to take the helm of Canada when there are 5 dimensions of trouble brewing, and more serious trouble on all of those dimensions than I've ever seen plague Canada in my entire life as a Canadian. And it's worse than that, because I suspect that the true picture is a lot more dismal than we know.
Yes.
Do you think the true picture is a lot more dismal than we know? Just like the deficit was going to explode over 40 billion? Do you think the real picture is even worse? Do you think the GDP is actually almost non-existent now because it's been based on illegal immigration, and immigration that is supposed to be temporary? Do you think they've been lying about everything? Yeah, I think Jordan's got the right idea here. And I think he's completely correct that the picture we're going to see when the Conservatives take office is going to shock even those of us who know the Trudeau government is corrupt and inept and incompetent.
Okay, so that's going to be dumped on you sometime in the next year. And so how are you going to deal with that? Like, how are you going to deal with the fact that the easiest thing to do for Canadians and for the remnants of the legacy media will be to wait until the Trudeau government collapses completely, dumps the economic mess on your shoulders, and then 2 months later proclaim that it's your fault.
Right.
Well, and it will be your responsibility at that point. And so,
they get the party, I get the hangover.
Oh, you definitely are going to get the hangover. There's no doubt about that. And that's a formidable set of problems. Now, as we've already pointed out, Canada has a tremendous number of natural and cultural advantages. But still, like, there's a lot of, now you have a Senate that's packed with liberal progressives. Let's call them by their proper name. You have a Senate that's packed with progressives. You have a judiciary that's packed with progressives. You have municipalities all across the country that are progressive. Even once you win, there's going to be a lot of opposition to your movement forward, and you're going to inherit all these problems. So, like,
are you trying to dissuade me from taking this job,
man? And
before he actually says it, you may recall a couple of months ago, I raised the issue not only on this broadcast, but on my Substack. What happens in the Senate? What happens when Pierre Poilievre has a supermajority in the House of Commons, and he's going to have like 240 seats? And the Senate is packed with, as Mr. Peterson points out, progressives who have been in the pocket of Justin Trudeau. They just don't call themselves liberals. You know, they call themselves the woke party of enlightenment. I couldn't believe the last time I sat in the Senate listening to the debate and seeing it like 5 different mini parties, but 4 of them all agree on the same things. They just don't call themselves liberals anymore. And there's a small little group of conservatives left over because Stephen Harper wanted to reform the Senate. Let's not forget that. One of Stephen Harper's dreams, one of the dreams of the Reform Party that Stephen Harper put so much of his intelligence and work into. He was one of the authors of the Blue Book. One of the main objectives of that party was to reform the Senate, to have a triple E Senate that was effective, equal, and elected. You may recall that. Stephen Harper tried various ways to circumvent the need for a constitutional amendment to change the Senate. He allowed people in Alberta, for instance, to elect the Senate, and then he just appointed the person they elected. But he gave up. He stopped appointing senators. And what has the result been? You have a Senate now that's packed completely with progressives, woke liberals that Justin Trudeau's appointed, but he just says, hey, they're not liberals. They're not really Liberal Party people. If they agree with me, so what? So what happens when Pierre Poilievre comes face to, when he hits that wall? What happens? This is the question I've been asking for quite some time. You could literally have a woke left of center Senate holding up legislations. Something is going to have to give in this next session of Parliament after Pierre Poilievre becomes Prime Minister. We're going to need some sort of legislative mechanism to move the Senate, just like they did in Great Britain in the early 19th or early 20th century, when the House of Lords refused to pass legislation passed by the House of Commons because they deemed it to be too radical. We're going to have the same situation here in Canada. And I'm interested to hear what Poilievre says.
So, I mean, I want to know why you think you're ready. And it's been 2.5 years since we've had this conversation like this. And what's your plan, and who are the people you have in positions to implement your plan, and why should Canadians have confidence in them?
So my plan is pretty clear. We're going to cut bureaucracy, cut the consultants, cut foreign aid, cut back on corporate welfare to large corporations. We're going to use the savings to bring down the deficit and taxes and unleash the free enterprise system. We're going to repeal C-69, that's the anti-energy law, to cause a massive resource boom in our country and make it attractive for business to do the value-added work here in this country. So part of it's going to be growing out of this mess. You know, if you take the debt to GDP ratio, you have the denominator has to grow. And that's why we need a bigger, more powerful GDP that can fund our country and diminish the relative size of our debts. We're going to bring back a monetary discipline to bring down inflation, stop the money printing, and we're going to incentivize the municipalities to get building. But it's going to be a big fight with all of these things because there are so many vested interests that will be trying to hold us back. So many small economic groups that have profited off the status quo, they will be fighting against me. And I'm going to have to put out a call to Canadians that they have to stay politically active. They can't assume that simply by voting in an election that everything is going to, all the problems are going to reverse instantaneously. I will need people to put pressure on the Senate to adopt my economic reforms.
Yes, but there's only so much average Canadians can do, because that's not going to change the makeup of the Senate. That's not going to enable Pierre Poilievre to change the Senate. There needs to be a legislative solution to this. But I would say, yes, it can't hurt. Put on all the pressure possible on these woke senators to stop stymieing the will of the people. And that has to be done. But he's also right. There's all kinds of other vested interests in this country. School boards, municipal governments, some provincial governments, the education system, academia, the legacy media. This is going to be one of the toughest jobs any prime minister ever had, is to take on what is left of Justin Trudeau's legacy. It's going to be very difficult. Let's hear the
I will need people to put pressure on their mayors and local councillors to get out of the way and let us build homes. I will need businesses to actually do their part. I mean, our corporate Canada is so completely incompetent when it comes to politics. They're going to have to start to fight for the policies that are good for their workers more aggressively. And I've said that to them. We need to fire their incompetent lobbyists and actually go to the people and make the arguments for the reforms that I'm talking about. And
And
only
are the
then-
businesses that you're talking to, these are larger businesses, I presume, do they understand your concerns? Are they on board with your
they're starting
suggestions?
to understand, because they know that what they have been doing hasn't worked.
Well, the energy companies have been towing the green line,
Well,
which
they're
seems to me to be a very
idiots.
bad strategy.
They're idiots. They're complete idiots.
Yes. And that, of course, is one thing I'm looking forward is the rollback of this energy legislation that has been completely destructive for the energy sector in Canada and for average Canadians to just heat their homes and to buy gasoline. Anyway, I've gone over time today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you understand more of the mind of Justin Trudeau. It's very simple. It's that of a 12-year-old girl, and it's of a narcissistic man who really thinks he can ignore everybody in the room and every time he wants to. Let's keep resolving to resist. Hope you're having a great first week of 2025. Let's keep it rolling. I'll be back again tomorrow with all the news that you need to know.